RotoGrinders, Dean here, joined today by the greatest DFS player in all of Saskatchewan, Canada, possibly the greatest DFS player with a Z in his name, starting. Let's just go with starting. Let's not be too ambitious. It's TJ. TJ's Warch. What's up, TJ? How are things in your world?
I mean, does that include Zuiden, Justin Van Zuiden, or are we saying that's a V?
I think that's a V. Okay.
Cards
comes out later. You guys can duke it out. I don't know if you're prepared to have an argument against STL.
I mean, I think if we're gonna go all-time winnings, he's probably got me beat here. He's been doing this professional thing for a while. I only really have about 1 year of 2 years, we'll say, of significant winnings and success under my belt.
Are you calling him old? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm calling myself inexperienced compared to the vet.
And yet you're an expert? Come on. I can argue from this all different angles.
Look, sometimes a rookie gets drafted and he's really good off the bat, Dean. That doesn't mean that he can't still improve along the way.
We got 10 gamer going down tonight, TJ. A lot of teams either on the front end or the back end. Let's see. I think it's Spurs, Charlotte, Clippers, Houston, back end of a back-to-back, front end. A lot of teams on the front end. Golden State, Sacramento, Denver, Phoenix, Atlanta, Washington, Lakers, and Orlando. So if we don't get goofiness tonight, we're going to get some for sure tomorrow. As far as the holding pattern, or as far as what we're waiting for, the body parts, it's sort of weird, right? We're waiting for Sabonis. That's a late game. He's got a hand. I think he's got a thumb specifically. I believe it's like a broken thumb on his non-shooting hand. One of his digits. And also the alerts are that one of the beats was saying that Alex Len was running with the ones today. Yeah, Undertaker.gif and Alex Len. Nikola Jokic will absolutely annihilate him, but he does have some size. It's a 10 o'clock game also. There is 2 games at 10 o'clock, thankfully. Another deal where we have the bridge to the late games. First 8 are within an hour and a half of the slate starting. First 7 within 2 hours. There's an 8:30 game in New York versus Dallas, waiting in the Brunson burner. He's questionable. But, as far as a slate overview, it feels really wide open to me until we get more news that might give us some clarity. Phoenix was out with a lot of guys, but it's another strange thing. Phoenix is without a lot of guys, but they're still not popping, right? We'll get into that because some of the prices have kind of been pre-bumped, I guess. The matchup's not necessarily great. I'm curious your thoughts as far as this slate and, if there's anything specifically you're waiting for. We're expecting Kawhi to come back tonight from his rest yesterday. Keldon Johnson, Big Body Johnson, his entire body is questionable tonight. He's got a back. They're on a back-to-back as well. Golden State's without some guys as they have been, but the prices have kind of changed where there's no lock and loads really. Are you seeing it the same way as me as far as this slate feels really wide open right now?
Really wide open, and I think it's going to be very high scoring. It makes for a fun one for tournaments because we're going to get some pretty chalky players, but there's not all that many guys that are just sitting there like, oh, wow. It's not like on a typical 10-game slate. We usually just have, I feel like, a bit more concentrated stuff than we do today, whereas we got a few real concentrated guys today, then it's wide open.
I'm doing the old, we're going to go game by game, obviously, in a second, break it down that way, but I'm always curious to see, lineup HQ, who's popping the most as far as point per dollar, that kind of deal. Is it fair to assume you're concentrating mostly on Fanduel today? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I could I could talk mostly DK. You can talk mostly Fanduel. Feel free to cross over, but 10 game, there's no reason for us to repeat ourselves and say the same thing. But if that works for you, I can focus on DK and you can focus on Fanduel. That good for you?
Yeah, sounds fantastic.
All right. So DK, I'll take a peek over there first. And for what it's worth, our projection team, I believe they took a stand. At least they did as of a little bit ago. Yeah, they took a stand on this, that they ruled Sabonis out, which, nothing official there. He's officially questionable. It seems unlikely, but, it's also a 10 o'clock game. Our best dollar for dollar play on this slate, there's only one player on DK that's a 6x play, and that's Okongwu, which there's some fragility to that. But, he's still pretty
officially questionable, or is he officially doubtful?
You're talking about Sabonis?
Yeah.
I see questionable, unless something changed.
I just saw on our injury report page, he's listed as doubtful. I didn't see a tweet or anything, though.
So I think he's officially questionable, but the reason why there's doubt is that
it's a broken thumb.
Well, it's that. And it was also initially thought he'd be out for a bit, and then well maybe he's going to play through it. It's also the front end of a back-to-back. But the other part is the Beats was talking about at practice today at shoot-around. He was not in the starter's jersey. He was not out there. It was Alex Len. I think Metu was supposed to get in some work as well too. So I'm guessing it's a combination of all those things that they're calling him doubtful.
Yeah, he's out.
Well, I don't like to speak in definitives. If you want to, by all means, go for it. It can get you in trouble sometimes. But, well, you're making the call?
Yeah, making the call. He's out.
Okay, well, what's interesting is, all right, let's just assume he is. And we'll talk about that game eventually, obviously. But we're projecting Alex Len for 20 minutes and dusting off Alex Len. I don't know when last time he's really played any serious minutes. And historically, we know Alex Len's a guy that for a while would be a dude that would start the game and then just disappear, right? He would be like a worse version of like Kevon Looney, where he would start the game and play like 17 minutes. He's 3K on DK, still minimum. He's also power forward eligible in Fanduel, which could be useful. I don't know if you play him at center and you only get one if he's just center only. But they have like some depth there at Sacramento. Nobody's really good. Like Rashawn Holmes was once good. He's not very good anymore. They'll probably give him a shot. Metu is not anything special. Queta, same deal. Do you have a thought as far as Alex Len? Because there's like huge fragility there, but he'll get his fouls, I'm guessing, against Jokic. They'll he's a big body, and that's enough to qualify to get some run.
I feel like Len, Holmes, Queta, they're all just going to go out there and be like, yeah, just hack him if he gets anything close to the hoop. The person I'm most interested in for front court value for Sacramento, I think, is going to be Trey Lyles.
Okay. Yeah. How much is Lyles? Is he like 3K?
He's 3.8 on FanDuel, 3.6 on DraftKings. He's only projected for 20 minutes, which obviously doesn't make him project very well, but he got 22 last game after Sabonis got hurt, and I think we're probably going to be seeing him get some extended minutes in this one. I could see the Len being the dummy starter, but even if he's not, he likely gets in foul trouble. And regardless of kind of how this rolls, I see Trey Lyles as the guy closing this game.
Well, you think Lyles closes at the 5 against Jokic? Or like Lyles is playing the 4 alongside like Metu or Holmes?
I think it's probably going to be Lyles at the 5.
I think Lyles can hang with Jokic? Yeah,
I don't think any of them can.
Yeah. I feel like Lyles is like 6'7" in my head. I could be wrong.
He's 6'10".
6'9" according to Google. If you want to bing it, feel free. But
where's Trey Lyles from, Dean?
Well, he's from Saskatchewan, Canada. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yes, he is.
SG. What are they are good Canadians? SGA, right? Canadian?
But I mean, I'm sitting here right now as we speak in Saskatchewan, Canada.
Yeah.
I don't think you realize how rare that is for an NBA player to be from here. There's probably like 25 NHL Canada, players from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
not from Saskatoon though. They're all
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Wiggins is from Ontario. Every Canadian NBA player is from Quebec, Ontario, or Vancouver, except for or BC. Sorry, they're all from those 3 provinces, except for my guy Trey Lyles, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Who's the second greatest athlete that come from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada?
Oh, he's not the first.
Oh, but I'm saying like the bar starts at Trey Lyles though. Is somebody better than Lyles?
I mean, we got multiple like Olympians.
Is there a statue of anybody at the town square?
Terry Fox.
Terry Fox. Was that like a wrestler?
No, he was a guy who ran all the way across Canada for.
Oh, I remember this guy. Yeah, he was like with one leg, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. Was that like in the 80s or something? In the 90s? I remember his story. Yeah. Just I mean, incredible.
The number one athlete from Saskatoon is Gordie Howe.
Ah, well, there you go. Yeah, that feels like it's gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah, like he's like just outside Saskatoon, like a little suburb, but like it's basically it's Gordie Howe.
The point I was making before, though, as far as the slate, is that the value
like lots of Olympic gold medalists, though.
Yeah, like bobsleds and stuff like that, slalom.
No, everything. We got speed skating, snowboarding, hockey,
Where was Ben Johnson from?
Ontario.
Oh, that's like the first Canadian athlete that pops in my head as far as
Ontario is basically the United States.
It's Canada, right? I'm sorry, it's Toronto.
Yeah,
Ontario.
Toronto's in Ontario. Yeah, Ontario is just like basically it's basically a blue state in the United States. Like that's kind of what Ontario is. It's got the same dense population that the States has.
I bet
I think there's more people registered playing basketball in Ontario than there is hockey.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was at Windsor too. I stayed there for a couple of days, and I was hanging out in Detroit and Niagara Falls. That's my Canadian experience, basically.
It's not a bad one.
Yeah, I'll pop up there once. I'm not going to go Saskatoon. That's way out of my way. I don't think I can make it. It's too far. Unless like teleporting became a thing, then sure, I suppose I'll teleport to Saskatoon for a day and I'll say hello.
I mean, the summer's beautiful.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But the summer's beautiful everywhere, isn't it? Mostly.
Yeah, but here the summer's like you could come live here and spend like $6 American in a beautiful summer for a week.
Is it that cheap?
Oh, it's pretty darn cheap.
I'll check out the Airbnbs in Saskatoon in like July. It's really humid in Florida. I'm happy to get out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You get to like come to like a nice dry sunny 90 degrees. It's beautiful.
You got an extra room, TJ?
Oh yeah, I got a nice big house now. Thanks to the DFS winning. So let's dive back into it. Game 1, Dean. What do we got? Who's up first? Are we going Lakers in Orlando or are we going Philly in Washington?
We'll go Lakers in Orlando. I go by the RotoGrinders starting lineups page, and that's the one that's first. By the way, one of us is in charge of like asking for likes and for groveling for likes, and it's not me. You know who it is?
Pretty sure it's you.
Well, no. I mean, I'm
supposed to be you. You're the one who's here every day. But we got 120 people watching, only 20 likes. Hit that like button. I'll give a favorite low-owned GPP play every time we hit 50 likes today, going up all the way to crunch time. So as soon as we hit the first 50 likes, we'll start with somebody sub 10%. Then after that, we'll get somebody sub 5%.
All right, it's the Magic, their home versus the Lakers. 236 is the total. It's high and it's tight. Lakers 3-point dogs here on the road, playing on the East Coast. Lakers pretty healthy in the absence of course, Anthony Davis. Otherwise, everybody else good to go. Dennis Schroeder is fine. His foot is fine. He's going to play. LeBron expected to play as well. As far as Orlando, they are getting healthier. Still without Okeke, still without Suggs, but some pieces have come back, namely Wendell Carter and Cole Anthony. This is one of those games where it's got a high total and theoretically it should be appealing, but a lot of the Orlando guys, they're a little bit overpriced when the guys are coming back. Paolo Banchero to me is like the best play in this game, probably when you consider all the elements, but nobody's really going to be owned from what I can tell. What say you as far as the Lakers and the Magic?
Yeah, I feel like we're still going to be kind of waiting for some ownership stuff to adjust here a little bit. There's some that feel a little inflated and some that kind of feel a little bit low. So I think that's going to balance out maybe a little bit when we get our next ownership update. But I do think this is a super interesting game for tournaments, like LeBron and Thomas Bryant on the one side. And then on the other side of this one, Banchero would probably be the one I'd be most likely to go to. And yeah, that's probably about it. But I do really like those three players for tournaments.
Just kind of put up the ownership stuff right now. Let's see. Our ownership is as of 4:30, so it's relatively up to date. Of course, this will get updated as the night progresses, the closer we get the lock. We do have Cole Anthony at 10% for at 5K on DK, which that doesn't feel very sexy to me. Bryant is about 10%. We're giving him 31 minutes, and it's Pat Bev. That's never a fun roster. LeBron's not getting owned tonight, 7%. Banchero at 6%. I think that feels a little bit low if that's the case. As much as I don't like playing players at 7 o'clock, I'm just okay like locking him in and kind of figuring it out as the night progresses. I think that's a little bit too low considering his potential upside. I don't really have much else to say as far as this game. There's 10 games going down, and despite the fact this is how totals can lie, right? 236, high and tight. Oh, we should be excited. I don't really have a lot of excitement for this game, and it didn't sound like you did either on the overall.
So worth noting, Banchero will be picking up quite a bit of ownership on FanDuel. He is one of notorious on core plays today, and Banchero is one of his core plays. And so he will be picking up ownership on FanDuel. I think he's fine. I think he's a great cash game play. I think he's fine for tournaments, but if I am playing him in tournaments, I probably want to maybe run this one back with LeBron or a Thomas Bryant, but I don't think you have to. I'd like to, but I don't think you have to.
Michael in chat's asking about Wendell Carter, or is he still on a minutes restriction? Like, he played 18 in his first game back. That was his first game back in, a month or so? You got to give him like 34, 33, 32 to pay off. There's no discount at all in that salary at 6'7". It's just like, let's say he gets a bump to 25 minutes. So good luck getting, paying off 6'7" in 25 minutes. It's a no for me. It's a long way of saying no. Your thoughts as far as Carter? Even if he gets a minutes bump, it's not going to 32. I don't think. We're giving him 19 for what it's worth.
I don't think he's in play today. I don't know how many he's going to get, but I don't think he's in play today.
Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. It's keep an eye on it going forward, but there's no discount in his price, and maybe you get 80% of his minutes as opposed to 100%. Let's talk about Philadelphia. Philadelphia is at Washington. The Wizards, 225.5 is a total. Philadelphia is a 5-point favorite. As far as the health of these two clubs, well, let's see. Philadelphia expecting Maxey to come back on Friday. This is Daily Fantasy Sports. We care about today and today only. He's out today. Doesn't matter. He's been out for a while. Otherwise, Philadelphia fully healthy. Washington pretty good to go as well. Just Denny Avdia. He's got that back, so he's questionable. This is another game where, it's not a lot going on for me. Like, I don't have any priorities. Like I say, I'll say
there
that.
You go. Wendell Carter Jr. not even starting, so definitely not somebody we got to worry about today. I would like to say a quick RIP. As a sports fan and a big shoe guy, this was a group that was pretty prevalent throughout my childhood, and they're officially closing at the end of December. Eastbay. You ever ordered a pair of shoes from Eastbay before?
No, I thought like a shoe influencer died or something. I was bracing myself. I'm like, oh, who died? Eastbay sounds like a company I'm not aware of. Is that a Canadian company, or is that just I'm just not hip enough to be aware of Eastbay?
No, Eastbay's an American company, but it was just like all the good basketball shoes, all the good any shoes you could always get from Eastbay, ship them right to your door with some good prices.
Huh. According to Trigger Tweets in chat, that 70% off Eastbay was crazy. Is that like their big thing? They give you a big chunk off as far as they mark it up 50%. They'd have 50% off.
So no, they'd have like all the new shoes for regular price, if not cheaper than your typical retailers. But then anything that was a couple years old that they'd still have in stock, they'd just 70% off it.
Mr. Gerg says, "Is Oasis the best British band since the Beatles?" I don't know what started that conversation, but I can't just let that go because the answer is clearly Radiohead. It's not Oasis. Like, what are we talking about?
One Direction, man.
They're not even like a band. Like, they're just a group of people that sing and dance. It's not a band.
Yeah,
to be a band, you got to play an instrument, don't you? Were you being serious?
I don't know. No, I was just messing with you.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't think they play their own music. I'm sure I missed them. There's the chat will jump in, I'm sure, and give their Arctic Monkeys. I mean, they're not as good. It's Radiohead. That's the answer. Producer Devin, I'm sure, has a really hipster answer too. If he'll chime in, yeah, he's just laughing at me. How it got me triggered. Yeah, for sure. But come on, the answer is Radiohead. It's not even close. And of course, there's a lot of great bands. What was the starting point? Best since the Beatles? I mean, was Zeppelin before or after the Beatles? Zeppelin was after, right? So Zeppelin's got to be in the conversation. Yeah. All right. Well, why was I getting derailed? The Who? I mean, that's a far dating back point. This is a 10-game slate, TJ. We don't have time for this nonsense. No. Isn't Nick Lachey from Canada? No, he's from Cincinnati. And don't ask me why I know that.
You know that because your favorite temperature out there in Florida is 98 degrees.
Yeah, there you go. I'm more of a Drew Lachey guy. No, I Nick Lachey, sure. Yeah, shout out to 98 degrees. And they're like a boy band, but they don't play instruments. Queen? Yeah, sure. Queen. Yeah, that's another good nomination. Okay, so it's Queen. It's Led Zeppelin.
One more like, and Dean stops talking about British bands, and 11 more likes, and I start, and I give my first low-owned GPP play of the day. I'm trying to keep talking here until we get that one like, just to make sure that
now.
You're not allowed to talk about it anymore. There it is. All right. Philadelphia and Washington, 115 to 110. Total. Okay, you got it. You're better at that part.
Yeah, Embiid is a great big spend. He's certainly, his ceiling is 85, 90, 95. Wouldn't surprise us, right? You got to pit him against Jokic, I suppose, and Jokic has been out of this world, and he's facing God knows who for Sacramento. We're assuming that Sabonis is going to be out. We'll see. Stay tuned on that. But either way, Jokic is essentially matchup proof. As far as price, I'm just thinking the big boys at center. Those are the two big spends. Do you have a preference amongst Embiid versus Jokic? I think that's a good place to start. If you're going to spend all the money on the center position, is it going to be Jokic or Embiid?
Jokic by so far.
Yeah, I mean, ownership's going to reflect that as well, I believe. Let's see. On DK, by the way, the only guy, James Harden getting 7% ownership here on DK, and that's it in this game, which is kind of wild. He's
Jokic just does all the exact same things as Embiid does, but also gets assists. From a fantasy standpoint.
Well, Embiid's a better blocker, if you want to get all technical. I would assume. I off the dome, I'm guessing Embiid's got more blocks. Guessing?
Probably, but I don't think it's like that significant from a DFS standpoint. Like, we'll see how many he averages per game, but like on a game-to-game basis, I don't think it's like, I think you're basically just looking at like a 5-point higher floor from Jokic just because of how many more assists he's going to get.
Khalif is very upset at me for not knowing East Bay. I don't know East Bay. I'm not aware of it. I remember British Knights. We were from a different generation. Converse, shoes like that. LA Gear. Do you remember
East Bay is a store, not like it's an online store. It was eBay, but for just shoes, and it was like it sold everything out. It was fantastic.
Okay, I mean, it's possible I've been there. I just don't recall. It wasn't that. It wasn't memorable for whatever reason.
Like, it's not an in-person store. It's online only. It's eastbay.com.
Fantasy points are in it, by the way. Joel Embiid 1.59 on DK. I'm going to guess Jokic is like close to 1.7, considering how incredible he's been of late. Let's see. 1.74. He surpassed the 1.7. Well, yeah. Last year, he was almost like 2 points. There was a time where he was getting like 2 fantasy points a minute in the absence of Murray and the absence of Porter, Michael Porter Jr. We do have Aaron Gordon questionable tonight as well, for what it's worth. But back to this Philadelphia-Washington game, it's going to be mostly ignored. There's some pieces you can spend up on. You can spend up on Embiid. You can spend up on Harden. If you want to spend up on Porzingis, you can do that. Sure, why not? Otherwise, I don't see a lot else. If Denny Avdija doesn't play, I don't think that matters much. They have plenty of dudes. Achimura, Kispert, Barton to fill that, to swallow up those minutes. Do you think that's a big impact if we lose Avdija? I don't think so.
Not on this slate. There's just too many other places I'd like to go. We got some value. I think the only person I'd be interested in playing in this game is Kristaps Porzingis, or if I was running a ton of lineups, maybe I'd include Bradley Beal in this pool. But like, it's like similar to the first game. We're just looking at like 3 players. That's kind of it for me in this one too. It's Porzingis, it's Embiid, and it's Harden, and nobody else really gives me any interest.
Yeah, Avdija available to play, by the way. So whatever sort of bad value in Washington you were considering if he was out, throw that against the wall. It is useless. Anything else as far as this game that's worth talking about, or shall we move on?
No, let's keep it moving, because we got like 4 games on this slate that are just like so important and beautiful.
Yeah.
And then so let's spend our time on those ones, and then just keep nonsensing outside of that.
I'm curious those 4. I want to play the feud and guess what those 4 are. All right.
A lot of it's the answer is 3. It's 3 of them.
Okay. And a lot of it, stay tuned, because like news can change that as well. I don't believe one of those 4 or one of those 3 is the Houston Rockets at the Boston Celtics. 229.5 is the total. This is a definitive scheduled blowout. 15-point favorite for the Celtics. Their defense has gotten even better. No surprise with the arrival of the Time Lord, Robert Williams. Houston is not only playing on a back-to-back, but they're traveling as well. They played a great game last night. I was watching a good chunk of that game, and, Porter was great. Was solid. Şengün looked great. But, look, 10-game slate, bad matchup, back-to-back, travel, blowout on layaway. If you want any part of the Rockets, by all means, have at it. Eric Gordon's not going to play. He's old, so they're going to let him sit down. Did I see Robert Williams is questionable? I should have mentioned that. He had the fish. He's got an illness, as does Peyton Pritchard. Who did you fall for that nonsense, by the way, when Peyton Pritchard was throwing the starting lineup about last week or so? Good Lord.
I did not know.
Oh, I all of a sudden, Peyton Pritchard. I got excited for a second. And
Peyton Pritchard's more exciting off the bench because then he just runs his second unit and has the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a bad, sometimes you make bad decisions and, life is about choices.
Process errors happen. That's how you learn and get better.
Do what now? Process
errors happen. That's how you learn and get better.
Yeah. Yeah. So Williams is questionable. Pritchard is questionable. That one doesn't matter so much. Williams, I mean, they still have plenty of bodies, obviously. I don't, this is another game, I think it's good to say when you don't like something because you can't just sit here and say like, well, you'll play the three best guys in each team. Let's move on. I am not focusing on this game. Are you?
Running the one lineup that I am? No, I am not. But if I were running 150, guess what? You can play the top three players on this Houston team. Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and Alperen Şengün are all guys that I never X out of my lineup if I'm running 150 just because they've all shown some big ceilings. So on Fanduel specifically, if we look over at this Boston side, we're getting a chalky almost 30% own Jaylen Brown today because he is still too cheap at that sub 9K price tag. He projects really well, great cash gameplay, but like you mentioned, there's blowout risk. So for tournaments today, I'd be setting a rule that the only ones I would have in my pool for Boston would be Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. However, I'd make a rule that can set a conditional player in lineup HQ. When I'm playing one of those two guys, I'd want to make sure I'm playing at least one to two of Porter, Green, and Şengün in that lineup as well. Probably one. I did a little withdrawal from the account to pay some bills, and so I'm just waiting a little. I'm taking a little bit of
$6 to live in Saskatoon. I was told. Like, you don't have $6 on hand.
I mean, I am Canadian, though. You're going to be coming in with your American money and you get to convert it. I'm sitting here with my Canadian money, just only getting that. You know what I mean? Like, I got to, if you're coming in with
I'm like the Monopoly guy, or I'm like, Scrooge McDuck or whatever, like diving through the gold coins. And I just feel like a millionaire. Is that what you're saying?
Look, if I would have known how much content I was going to be doing in the future, I probably would have left a lot more in my bankroll to just like kind of be a bit more of like a pro DFS player, but it's still I'm kind of happy I didn't because the gambling addict in me probably would have been a bad thing. But I took basically all the big winnings I've had over the last 2 years. It's all been taken out from we bought a big new house, we got married, and all this other stuff. So I'm letting life take priority first, and then after the next big win, we'll get back into it.
It's nice getting paid in American dollars, isn't it?
It is. That is nice. And those DFS winnings aren't taxed either, so that's nice.
Oh, that's beauty. Yeah, that's amazing. All right.
We deal with the cold.
Yeah.
And we don't leave our house in exchange for free healthcare and tax-free DFS.
That's, it's a reasonable package deal. We shall they're asking about White in chat. I haven't really considered Derek White. Any thoughts as far as White? Does he do anything for you?
Is he still nice and cheap on DK?
He is. I'm pulling up his price right now.
4.2. Like if I was running 150, maybe he stays in the pool just because like he could get 30 points tonight, maybe. But like he's not a value I'm going out of my way to get. No. Yeah, I mean. And on FanDuel, he's just.
I'm not isolating him. I'm almost definitely not going to play him in like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 lineups. So I'm playing 150. I guess I wouldn't full X him out of the pool, but it is what it is. I like your thought process. If you're running, especially if you're running like two of somebody, if you're playing Brown and Tatum, absolutely put a rule in to run back at least one dude on Houston. Otherwise, what's the likelihood that Brown and Tatum both hit ceilings and nobody in Houston like gets dragged with them? Like that seems very unlikely.
The only way I'd be playing Tatum and Brown in the same lineup would be if I also had Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and Alperen Şengün. Like I need all 3 of those guys in my lineup. We got Steve Smith asking in chat. He says, TJ, where is my low-owned DK GPP play for 50 likes? I'm sitting here. We got the 50 likes. Where is the play? So you know what? I'm looking on FanDuel right now. And so if it is not sub 10%, then we'll have to find some others. But are you on screen share, Dean, or is that Devin?
That's producer Devin. He's all over it.
Producer Devin on the screen share. So if he can maybe pull up the DK one for me so I can take a peek at ownerships as well. But I got FanDuel in front of me, and our first low-owned sub 10% GPP play on FanDuel, it's going to be Nikola Jokic because it's crazy how no one is playing him. Find the value. Don't play a 60% owned Onyeka Okongwu and just play yourself some sub 10% Nikola Jokic because it is just crazy. Yes, I get he's expensive, but he could have 80 points tonight. And so that is my – I think he really can.
No, he's can. I agree.
Yeah.
I think if you can get Jokic at less than 10%, and you're making 150, as a general thought, as a general rule, not knowing anything else, who's in, who's out, who they're playing against, I think it's a good idea to get over it. Whatever the projected ownership is, get over it on Jokic. And you're saying, 5%. He's 12.4. It's a full price. And again, he's got to put up 75, 80. Even 70s might not be good enough unless it's not going to hurt you, right? 70, but he has to do his thing, which he has. He's been doing it of late for sure. But I like that thought process. There's a lot of good stops along the way. It's a big slate, and there's no clear and obvious value just yet that's jumping off the page, which also is pushing that to ownership down. If some stuff opens up, then all of a sudden, then salary is going to be available, and I imagine that ownership is going to go up. But as of right now, 5% Jokic. I think it's a good call. Did you have anything for DK specifically or no?
Yeah, I just pulled up the DK lineup HQ page on my laptop beside me here as well. And I was talking about 3 games that are really catching my eye today. And so, this is such a low-owned play. I don't want to be giving it out already because this was going to be my sub 10% play. So you know what? I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save that one for my sub 10%.
When do the people get that?
You know what? It's supposed to be 100, but we're going to give it early because it's the holidays and I'm feeling in a giving mood. It's DeJounte Murray. He's projected at sub 2% on DraftKings. He's projected for sub 3% on FanDuel. DeJounte and Trae Young, I think, are 2 of the best tournament plays on the slate. Now, I wouldn't be wanting to play them together, but both of these guys aren't getting any ownership, and they're in a 1-point spread, close game in Indiana, huge total. I just adore these Atlanta guards for tournaments today. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray both. If you don't quite feel you don't have the salary, you go to DeJounte Murray. If you think Trae's got the bigger ceiling, especially on DK, where the steals and blocks aren't worth as much and you get more for the threes, you play Trae Young over there. They're both low owned, and I think both of them are just phenomenal plays today. I do prefer DeJounte a little bit more on FanDuel, and I prefer Trae a little bit more on DraftKings.
Well, I should say, as far as Jokic on DK, he's going to be 20% owned, at least as of right now.
That's why I wanted to give something else now.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because he's 1K less over there, at least. And you can roster 2 centers, which opens up the centers a little bit more on DK. And it works out just perfectly, TJ. I'm sure you're a pro. This wasn't an accident. It's a seamless segue. The next game is Atlanta versus Indiana. 238 is
That's why I wanted to give it now, because I couldn't gloat for my love of DeJounte Murray in the game and be like, haha, it's still DeJounte Murray later when we get 100 likes. So hit the like button because we're giving you this stuff early. It says these are some great takes to win you some money.
I almost never play DeJounte Murray unless, of course, Trae Young is out. Trae Young is not out. We do have a questionable DeAndre Hunter, but I think he's going to play. We'll see. Stay tuned on that. Capella, of course, is still out with his calf. That's why we're expecting Okongwu to draw the start. It was sort of weird because I don't know if it was opponent dependent or how that worked, but they had a similar situation where they dropped Okongwu starting lineup and Collins played at the 5. We're currently projecting Collins playing alongside Okongwu, which is kind of interesting too. Maybe Collins plays some backup 5. We'll see. Bogdanovic coming off the bench as their 6th man and likely closer. Why is today any different? Why am I not going to be miserable? Why would I be miserable if I did not play DeJounte Murray? Because I just basically ignore him. And you're talking ambitious tournament play, and he's good. It's just he always seems to be a few $100 more than what he should be, I guess. Have we seen
I think he's about $1,000 less than he should be right now.
Okay, you're talking DK, you're talking FanDuel, you're talking both?
Both. So DeJounte Murray had been hurt first couple games back, didn't look great, didn't shoot the ball well. All of a sudden, last game against Detroit, shoots the ball a little bit better, 48 fantasy points. Now, if we look at his performances earlier in the year when he's healthy, this is a guy that shoots 16 to 20 shots a game. Now at an 8K price tag, 16 to 20 shots a game is valuable. It's something you're looking for. It's a guy that averages over 2 steals a game this year, especially on FanDuel. That's extra valuable. As long as he doesn't shoot like crap, he's basically got a 5x floor. And so I really like DeJounte Murray in tournaments because he's got a very solid floor with nobody playing him in a great game environment. Should be very fast paced, hopefully more turnovers, but more chances for buckets and assists as well. And then if you happen to catch a game that he gets 4 steals and a block or 2, that's a slate breaking performance, especially on FanDuel.
6 and 7 as far as pace. I agree with you as far as the pace. It's a good game environment. What about this Chalk Okongwu? 42% owned on DK. Man, that seems. And he's had some bad performances when he started.
Pushing 60% on FanDuel.
That's too high. It's just too high for a guy that like could score like 7 actual points. Now I know he gets rebounds and he gets blocks and he still get there and the price is cheap enough and yada yada. But I mean, like I understand why he's like hitting for cash and he's no longer like the 4K and 5K. Now he's creeping up there. Are you with me as far as Okongwu? I think you're supposed to be under this number on Okongwu, but 56% on FanDuel, 60% on DK. In tournaments, you're supposed to be under that. Would you agree with that?
100%. He's a good cash game play, but I think that is bad chalk just based on how high it is. Like, he is a good play. The reason we're assuming that both Okongwu and John Collins are both going to play 30-plus minutes, both start together, is because Indiana runs 2 bigs, Miles Turner and Jalen Smith, often in the starting lineup together. They got a lot of big guys to match up again with, right? But I mean, Jalen Smith hasn't been starting lately. Neesmith is back, so it's not might not be. But like that to me makes me not like Okongwu even more because we're basically just assuming he's either going to be having to go toe to toe inside with Miles Turner. Turner's often is outside on offense, so that's going to be pulling him away from the basket on defense. I think Okongwu makes for one of the best tournament fades on the slate. And although I love this game, my love is with the guards. I don't really care about getting to Collins or Bogdanovic today. Maybe I'd get to a little bit of them in if I was running 150. But I think Okongwu makes for a great tournament fade. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young are 2 of my favorite tournament plays on the entire slate. And then we swap it over to the Indiana side here. Halliburton is one of my favorite plays on the slate. Miles Turner, I think, makes for a great tournament play as well. And so it's weird that it kind of is like the top end guys I'm wanting to stick with, but I really do like them.
Just want to read this one. Trigger tweets in chat. My sister said she's going to divorce me if we don't win tonight. So there's a lot going on in that sentence, but I wish you luck, Trigger tweets. Hopefully we win some money this evening so you don't get divorced. Will Murray will he be guarding Halliburton? And if so, is Hield a good play? I don't know. Do you have a take on that? Who's going to be on Halliburton? I mean, I assume it'll be Murray and it won't be Trae Young, right? I don't think.
No, Young will be on Nembhard, which does make Nembhard slightly interesting. But like in today's modern day NBA, I don't worry about individual matchups that quick because it's not like this is Game 7 of a playoff game where the top defender is going to be boxing wanting him, never leaving him, never helping. Like they're going to switch just like they always do anytime there's some kind of motion.
Does Halliburton make the All-Star team this year? He certainly could. I think he deserves it. I haven't gone through it. It's easy to say yes, and then until it's like, oh wait, we can't have like 17 guys going. But in my head, yeah, sure, why not? Doesn't he deserve it? I think so. Not upset about it.
I think he's like I would have no issue with that. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, until you have to make some cuts.
I maintain that straight up the better player is Tyrese Halliburton over Domantas Sabonis.
Oh, come on. I mean, yeah. Yes. Well,
the Kings didn't think so.
Well, but the Kings are out of their mind. They don't.
Yeah. They got a bunch of picks and stuff for that one too, and it's like I wouldn't have even needed the picks. I would have just taken Halliburton.
The Kings haven't made the playoffs since like 1972, so I don't know if that's a reputable source. I know, yes, the Weber and Jason Williams and Vlade Divac, that was a fun team, and they got screwed because of the refs. God, what's the dude's name? I forgot the guy's name already. You know what I'm talking about? The big scam.
Yeah.
They had 97 free throws in the fourth quarter for the Lakers. I watched that game in Vegas, by the way. I was in a Vegas sportsbook watching that game.
Donahue?
Yes, there you go.
The other thing I wanted to say too is I just lost my train of thought already. Never mind. Halliburton's better than De'Aaron Fox too.
Well, yeah. I mean, do people argue that? Like, is that a thing that people would say?
Fox was the one they wanted to keep over him.
Well, yes.
People do argue that.
Which organization are we talking about again?
Yeah, I know the Kings, but like that's what I'm saying. I'm just don't give me the like, well, duh, when it's the not what happens. Like,
Dino wants to know if you like Luka or Joker. Luka's not in the slate, or they're just saying like, who would you rather have on your team? I'm not really sure. We've got off the DFS conversation and we're just talking about Luka or Joker next 5 years. Who do you want?
I would take Luka just because Jokic's prime will probably start ending in about 3 or 4 years, whereas Luka should theoretically still be getting better over that time.
He's still just 23, right?
Yeah. For next season, I'd maybe take Jokic, but no, like I mean, honestly, I think Luka's the best player in the NBA.
Oh, Luka is on the slate. What's wrong with me? Okay. So they're talking about the slate. I totally forgot who was playing against New York. Okay, yeah. Luka Jokic is. I know it's a different position, but if you're spending a full big spend, it's obviously a position conversation. It's a lot of building conversation. But who do you prefer? Luka as a starting point or Jokic as a starting point?
I would go with Jokic today just because I with how many people are playing a Kongu, I just love the idea of playing Jokic at center.
I like that answer. Yeah, I think that's a good response. If those ownerships are even close, right? That just seems way too high. By the way, should mention, you see producer Devin showing off some of our fabulous tools here on the screen. The Lineup HQ tool. If you want to use that tool at your own leisure and you're not a RotoGrinders member, how could you become one, at least for a week? You go in the Discord. You get yourself a chance to win 1 week free of RotoGrinders Premium. How do you do that? Go to rotogrinders.com/Discord. There's a live stream chat channel. Just jump in the live stream chat channel. Some of the Discord channels, some of it is free, some of it's premium. This is a free room. There is a button that just says, is Devin trolling me? Does it say enter me? It does say enter me, right? Yes, it does. Okay.
I am trolling you, Dean.
No, it doesn't say enter me, right? I'm reading that.
No, it just says enter. I'm just throwing back.
I'm Ron Burgundy. I will read anything. Hi, San Diego. Click the enter button, Devin. Jeez, this is why I got
enter Dean to win 1 free week of RG Premium.
That's all it takes. Yeah. And we're giving away 2 individual weeks. So yeah, rotogrinders.com/Discord. You go into the live stream chat channel, click the enter button. It's an enter button. You're not going to find an enter me button. That's not available. And certainly not in the Discord. But the DMs, all right. We shall move on from Indiana. Anything else of note as far as Indiana?
I don't think so. I love getting to some Halliburton and Miles Turner. I think this is probably my favorite game to stack on the slate. But outside of maybe some Nemhard tournaments, I don't really love a lot of the value here.
Yeah, I think Turner's pretty good. 6'3" price, by the way, on DK. Obviously, DK good roster. 2 centers, but I think it's a pretty good price. On FanDuel, you got some versatility with Turner, which is worth noting. You can play him at power forward. I'm not sure if you noted that or not, but I do think that's interesting. Get yourself it's kind of a cheat code to get 2 centers over there. Alex Len is a power forward, too, if you want a 0 or a 15 or a 25. Who knows what he's going to do tonight? We shall stay tuned as far as that. And
it's not a 0, a 15, or a 25. It's a 2 or a 40.
I wonder. I meant to see his matchups against Jokic in the past because I feel like he's had a couple decent matchups against them in the past, 5 years ago. When I say the past, 4 years ago. And maybe I'll check that at some point throughout the show. But we kind of glossed over Turner and Halliburton, but yeah, it's worth stressing. And I think Halliburton's a really, really good play tonight, and it's a nice little game stack as well. A little bit expensive if your starting points are Murray and Halliburton, but you can slowly make that work as well. Okay, let's move on. Clippers, Toronto, your Toronto Raptors. I assume even though you're 2,000 miles away, whatever it is, kilometers away from the Toronto Raptors home stadium arena, you're a fan, right? You'd have to be just because they're the one by default. Yes? No?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've been a Raptor fan my whole life. So it's kind of it's unfortunate that I'm kind of like, I mean, I don't really care. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but I like the Raptors and the Celtics, which obviously doesn't make sense because they're rivals in the same division.
Yeah.
But the Raptors were just always the team and you cheer for because they're Canadian. But when I was a little kid, I also was just like, well, my favorite color is green. And so I also like the Celtics. And I just developed like a emotional attachment while I was young. And so those are my two favorite teams. But yeah, the Raptors are kind of like my number
Was like
one.
Paul Pierce, like was that the best Celtic when you were Garnett, like those years, Rondo?
When I started watching, it was Pierce and Antoine Walker, and then when the Ray Allen, KG, and when that stuff went down, it was just amazing. And then I'll see if I can turn my computer enough. But beside me here, I got my signed Rondo jersey here right beside me.
Try not to fall into your chair this time.
No, and then this one here, it's being blocked by the Great Protector from Shang-Chi right now, but
sure,
this is a game worn Steve Nash one right here.
You know, I mean, this is a fun fact. You're probably not aware of this. You know he's Canadian, right?
Oh, I do. When I was in high school, I played a basketball tournament at his alma mater, and I dropped 35 in one of the games.
Look at you. Well, Santa Clara, I think is where at the college, but I don't somewhere.
That was the college, yeah. But it was they called it like a junior college, but it was a high school in Victoria.
Clippers back half of a back-to-back. They're traveling as well. We presume John Wall's not going to play. I think he's officially ruled out because he would, couldn't bust if he played 2 basketball games in the span of 24 hours. Kawhi is back off the injury report, expected to play his revenge game tonight versus the Raptors. The Raptors pretty healthy. Porter's been out for a while. They may get Precious Achiuwa back tonight. I don't think it matters, but he possibly has a chance. He's officially doubtful, I believe. But yeah, Clippers versus the Raptors. Man, Pascal Siakam, just like he is the nuts. He plays 97 minutes a game. Why don't we just play him every night?
It's not a bad play. Siakam is a great play as well in this one. I like him a lot for tournaments. Is Van Vliet's price still way cheaper on DraftKings? Yes. Oh my goodness. Fred Van Vliet, 7-6 on DraftKings. Sub 10% ownership. That should have been the 10% guy I got to, and then waited to give DeJounte Murray until we got 100 likes. We got 227 people watching right now. Make sure you hit the like button. Let's get up over 100 here so we can give some more low-owned plays. We got Discord giveaways going. Make sure you hit the like button. Yeah, Fred Van Vliet on DraftKings I really like. OG Anunoby on DraftKings I think is reasonable as well. And then Siakam on both sites makes for a very good play.
Yeah, highest projected own player on DK right now, OG Anunoby, and that's sort of, I don't want to say a victim of the slate, but that's just kind of where we're at. You got 6K, and he's going to give you 30 fantasy points. Are you excited about that? Not really, but that's where the math is right now. There's not a lot of 6X players if you're sort of looking at it from that perspective. I know it's kind of a flawed way, but that's sort of a catch-me-all as well. You mentioned FEV, despite the fact you like his price so much, less than 10%, 9%, specifically as far as the ownership. And I love Pascal because the minutes are just incredibly insane. We project him for 38, but that's like not a floor. I mean, that's not a – so last game, he played 41 minutes. Before that, 41 minutes. Before that, 47 minutes. Granted, that was an overtime, but that's still 42. 41, 41, 42. I mean, I'm on the projection team, but I don't know how you project somebody for 40 or 41 minutes, but I think I would take the over on 38. Just it's insanity.
Yeah,
and he's not
it's not
too. Just annihilate.
That's the thing. It's like you can't project him for that much because then just his points per minute rates are too good, and he's just the best player, the best play on the slate. But like, if he plays those minutes, you have no choice, and he's probably going to if the game stays close and it's a 4-point spread. So what the Clippers have going for them this one is like they're relatively healthy right now, right? They got George, they got Leonard. This should be a very good defensive team. I mean, no John Wall, I know that, but I just mean from a defensive standpoint, these guys should be engaged. So
third best defensively, the Clippers.
Yeah, like that is your negative to your Van Vliets and your Siakams today, but they're going to play minutes in a close game, and the pace of this one might worry me a little bit, but I honestly don't really care about how good the defense is for the Clippers, just because that probably means it's going to be Siakam and Van Vliet the one getting the buckets. because yes, this team defense is great, but that usually means teams are more reliant on their go-to guys to get the baskets. And if you want to look at it from an individual perspective, I mean, Siakam's going to have Marcus Morris on him, and that's not bad. Like, Morris isn't a bad defender, but Siakam's got a lot of length on him. And then Van Vliet's got Reggie Jackson on him, and he's probably the worst individual lineup, a member of that starting lineup. So I'm very interested in Siakam and Van Vliet for tournaments, especially Van Vliet on DK. I think he's one of the best tournament plays on the slate. And then on the other side of this one, like, if I was running 150, I'd think I'd take a chance on some Norm Powell revenge. But outside of that, it would only be George or Leonard for me in a 150 setting.
I think they pushed his minutes down yesterday. He's still coming back. Yeah, we're only projecting 22, and I think they're kind of babying those minutes. So, yeah, 19, 22, 22. And there was some sort of note I saw. I don't recall where I saw it, but they're aware of his minutes, and they don't want to push him too hard. It's a back half of a back-to-back. So I might pump the brakes on Powell, just for the record. I don't know if they're ready to fully unleash him.
Just that's a 150 max. I would keep him in the pool as like a 3 to 5%er, just in case he happens to have a big scoring day. Like we saw him just against Philly the other day, 22 minutes, but he went 8 for 13, put up 33 fantasy points. So that's still a great score for his price, especially on DK. And so I'd keep him in the pool, but he's definitely not a target for me. Somebody I do think is very interesting, actually, for tournaments is Marcus Morris. Like, he's not going to project that well. He doesn't look that great, but the reason for that is we're giving him 29 minutes right now. If you bump this up to 32, 33, he all of a sudden becomes a very interesting play. All of a sudden he becomes one of a much better value. And so the thing with Morris that I like is he's going to close this game at the 5. Zubats is not. The Raptors will close with Pascal Siakam at the 5, and it's going to be Van Vliet, Trent, OG, Barnes, and Siakam. And so Marcus Morris will probably be playing most of the minutes that Siakam's on the court, because who else guards him? Does Kawhi? Yeah, maybe. Kawhi's a great defender, but he's still coming back from injury, and he's heavily undersized against Siakam. And so I think Marcus Morris plays some very big minutes today, because him and Kawhi Leonard are the only two capable players on that team who could remotely close to guard Pascal.
I was talking general rules before. Like, general rules, if I was running 150, knowing nothing else, I want to be over on Pascal as far as his ownership projection, and it's not very hard to get over it. He's 8% projected home right now. Like, get 15 to 20 of Pascal if you're running a bunch of lineups. Would you agree with that thought process?
Yeah, 100%. And on DraftKings, I'd be doing at least that much on. Fred Van Vliet too. I want to clarify. I did just say that Kawhi Leonard has Pascal Siakam has a lot of size on Kawhi Leonard. That's not necessarily the case. He's only an inch taller. He's got an inch more of a wingspan. But I do find it kind of hard to see Kawhi playing upwards of 40 minutes. And in addition to that, they're probably not going to be playing him at the 5.
We got Kawhi projected for 31 minutes for what it's worth. So not fully maxed out as far as minutes, but not getting babied as he was earlier in the season. Next game up, I saw people in the chat talking about this. This is absolutely, this is for the DFSers. This is not for this is not your favorite basketball game of the night per se. Spurs, OKC, 236.5 is the total. OKC, 7-8 point favorite. That seems rare. When are they 7-8 point favorites at home? We talked about before, Calvin Johnson, his entire body is questionable tonight with his back. Doug McDermott also has a knee, so he's questionable. I was wondering when we have a what if on that. Let's see if we happen to have that. We have one for Hunter. We have one for Robert Williams. We have one for Jalen Brunson, for Aaron Sabonis. We don't have one for Keldon, unfortunately. All right, it's a back-to-back, and it's travel for San Antonio. As far as OKC, they're pretty, some of the guys that have been out, JRE is still out. That's Robinson Earl. Jalen Williams down in the G League, as well as Lindy Waters, I believe, is down in the G League. So, thoughts as far as San Antonio, they still have a ton of dudes, right? What if Keldon's out? Does anybody kind of pop for you? I think Sohan's the most interesting piece here, 4-1 on DK. is usable, and I think we get a little bit of a bump if Keldon does not go. But I also can see like 11 or 12 guys playing for San Antonio.
I think Sohan is one of the better value plays on DraftKings if Keldon Johnson is out. And I mean, we've seen Keldon resting a lot of back-to-backs lately, so it's either going to be today or tomorrow. And I mean, Keldon's just been smashing lately. Last game last game that Keldon was out, Sohan had 44 fantasy points. Next one in only 25 minutes with Keldon back in, he had 32. He's been playing some good basketball, getting a little bit more aggressive, so I think he'd be one of the better values without Keldon. I'd also want to get to more Devin Vassell without Keldon Johnson, but those are probably going to be the only two players I'm interested in from the San Antonio side. And I would probably just be making a rule that I'd only want to be getting to those guys in lineups that I was playing SGA.
Matt with the fake fun facts in chat. The real story is really sad and not worth getting into, but yeah. All right, let's Precious, by the way. No Precious tonight. Your Precious, my Precious, anybody's Precious. Not available. No Achua. He's just been ruled out. And we have Peyton Pritchard with his thigh, so he cannot go. Robert Williams says update is no update. He is still questionable. Man, SGA looks like a really good play on OKC. As far as big spends go, where do you have him in comparison to DeJounte Murray, in comparison to Halliburton? I'm talking like, specific as far as guards, like Harden. You mentioned FEV, a little bit of a different price there as far as those two. Jaylen Brown, maybe. Where is SGA? Is he on the podium for you?
In a vacuum, he is above all of those guys. What makes me love a guy like Trae Young and DeJounte Murray so much is just how low owned they're going to be. Just nobody is absolutely playing them today. And I mean, SGA's ownership is not a concern because it's still below 15%, and it's because it's a 10-game slate. But he's a phenomenal play. If you land on him in cash games today, I don't think that's a problem. You land on him in a tournament, I don't think that's a problem at all. The ownership discrepancy on like these Atlanta guys is why I like getting to them, but just in terms of who is more likely to score more points, it's SGA.
All right,
and
now
I would put him above Harden as well.
The chat distracted me earlier with their music takes as far as England, best British bands. Now they're talking some Pearl Jam, so I'm fully distracted, getting all nostalgic. Black is the best song on the Pearl Jam 10 album, for the record. Porch is underrated. I do agree with you. But yeah, do you listen to the Pearl Jam? Are you aware of the Pearl Jam? Do the kids know who Pearl Jam is or was?
I know what they are. They're not my jam, excuse the pun, but
I got you.
Of course know what they are.
Fair enough. You're more of a Crash Test Dummies. I was thinking Canadian bands. Rush. You're big in the Rush, I suppose.
No, I was not big into Rush, but that is a great Canadian band.
Bare Naked Ladies, Canadian?
They are Canadian as well. I don't like a lot of Canadian bands like Nickelback. I hate them, but
there it is. That's what I was searching for.
But I do want to mention a great point by Mr. Richard in chat. If we refresh our lineup HQ here, SGA has gone from a 10% projected ownership on DraftKings to a 5.7% projected ownership. It's almost been cut in half since the last update. And so, I mean, if he's truly going to be that low owned, then yeah, SGA is a phenomenal tournament play.
I mean, I guess it's a salary thing. And again, where we're at right now, there's not a lot of great salary savers. We're seeing 5.7 on SGA seems, I was going to say criminal, but that's a silly way of saying that. But it's really goofy because I guess it's just the nature of the slate. You only have so many big spends, maybe just one. Poku makes the balance build work. He's a salary saver. 4.3K on DK. We're giving him just 25 minutes. We know the matchup against San Antonio obviously is prime. San Antonio gets ravaged on the inside. They're the worst defensive team in basketball. Maybe they're second. I'm not sure where they are right now against Detroit. They're both terrible. And Sohan and Poku, this is like where you're getting the value on DK as of right now. Sohan at 31%. That's in tournaments. Good Lord, it's a huge number. And that's with big body Keldon Johnson projected in for what it's worth. Pirtle getting 20%. He scares me on the back-to-back coming back from his injuries. I can see his minutes getting subdued a little bit, but of course up against OK inside's really, really good. And then Dort is 20% owned on DK as well at 4.9K. There's this is where you're shopping if you want to save some salary on DK. It's this San Antonio OKC game, and yeah, for tournaments, a lot of these numbers are pretty elevated, but we are waiting on news. Maybe some stuff comes. I feel like we're going to get something And you just don't see coming in this slate. It's just going to really shake things up. I'm not trying to will it into existence. I don't know if I want it. It's kind of fun having like not one clear and obvious direction on this slate. But that's kind of where we're at. Like there's not like anything super obvious. And like maybe this stuff is like bad chalk because it's good and it's fine, but it's not like, well, of course, it's not campaign at 4K when nobody else is alive for Phoenix. That kind of thing we had like a month ago. You understand what I'm saying?
Throw another wrench in the Alex Len situation with Domantas Sabonis is the Kings head coach just entered health and safety protocols.
Oh, okay. Is that Mike Brown?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a phone. You can text him and let him know like what he wants as far as the starting lineup and all that, right?
Yeah. Going back to this OKC stuff, I do think they're good values on DraftKings. Pokusevski is picking up crazy ownership. So if you land on him in cash, I think that's fine. But in tournaments, I'd want to get underweight on that and just play Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams instead, just because they're getting half or a third or a quarter of the ownership that he's getting. And then honestly, running 150, I think there's crazier things you can do than take shots on Trey Mann or even Darius Bazley. Like, just what if they do something stupid and switch up the rotations like they often do, and Bazley plays 20 minutes instead of 4 minutes at this 3.1K price tag on DraftKings?
But you could end up. The upside is like, I hope the best case scenario is this guy I'm rostering plays 20 minutes. It's never comfortable. I understand.
But quick as game log though. Quick as game log, and so see what happens with him. He doesn't play. 25 minutes, 18 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah. Doesn't play, high teens. He's a guy that could score 30 fantasy points even if it is 20 minutes. And so if I was putting 150, yeah, I'd go 1 to 2% Darius Bazley, 1 to 2% Trey Mann, just in case, because we don't have strong value on this slate. We got a lot of chalky, okay value. And so because of that, I do think I would take a couple random shots on that just in case. Just so I could get to some Jokic and Luka lineup stuff like that, get to the SGAs and a few more of those spend ups.
All right. So Phoenix is in Memphis. 225.5 is the total. Phoenix 8 point dog here. It's weird, right? We have no Devin Booker. He's got that groin. Don't worry. If you bet it on FanDuel, they recovered. They refunded y'all. Crybabies out there. Landry Shamet. I don't know why I'm still bringing that up. I was so tilted on Twitter. I shouldn't be. Campaign is out. Landry Shamet's out. Booker's out. They're really, really thin in the backcourt. We're looking at 11 bodies here as far as Phoenix. We're projecting Chris Paul to start alongside Damian Lee, Bridges, Craig, Ayton. Okogie could be like the sixth man. He could start. Wouldn't surprise me if Okogie draws a start instead of Lee. Dwayne Washington should get some run. Is it weird to you that they're without Shamet, Payne, Booker, all those guys in the backcourt, and still like nobody on Phoenix is like a clear and obvious smash?
I mean, have you looked at the ownership on this Dwayne Washington Jr. character?
A clear and obvious smash. I refuse to believe the way I phrased that. And again, he's 3K on DK, and we're giving him 16 minutes. Good Lord, 16 minutes and 36% ownership and a 18 fantasy output. That's what we're giving him. Like, that's not even good. Like, on some slates, I guess that's usable. But, if I tell you...
His ownership has got to be one of the crazier...
That's outrageous.
I'm assuming that changes. Like, what that has to be is other sites projecting him in the starting lineup and projecting him for 28 fantasy points. Like, I'm assuming that's...
It's 18 points and his 3K is usable enough to open yourself to get the money you want, the players you actually want. So it's not that he's great.
Yeah, but I don't think that could be leading to almost 40%. Like, I think he must be projected elsewhere to start today. Yeah. And just somebody's saying, hey, Damian Lee was coming off the bench when Shamet was there. They're just going to keep doing that same thing, but plug in Dwayne Washington. I don't know. But like, if he's not starting and he's really going to be plus 30%, and that's just a full fade for me.
He would mop up. I'll give him that.
I would just get way overweight on Damian Lee and just fade him if that was the case.
Well, this is kind of stay tuned, right? As far as the starting lineup, Damian Lee,
Chris Paul, Chris Paul sub 15% today. That's fantastic. He's a great tournament play.
I think Ayton and Paul. If you think this game is competitive, you think they're going to stay close. It's almost definitely because Ayton and Paul are doing their thing, and Bridges is probably playing good defense and whatever. Okogie is a fantasy point minute player for what it's worth. He's 4K on DK, he's 4.6 on FanDuel. Washington's a pretty good fantasy point minute player as well, 0.89 on DK. Lee is not spectacular, 0.74, and Wainwright's probably going to get some run. Can't imagine how usable he is, but 0.68 per minute. What's your best guess at the starting lineup? Or I just feel like it can go one of Charlotte's can start. It can go one of like 4 different directions, and I don't even know it's worth like beating my head against the wall trying to figure it out. Memphis is big on the other side with Triple J and Adams, and they're projecting Torrey Craig at the 4, which I don't think of him as a 4. He's a wing. Maybe they start Charlotte's at the 4. I don't know, but a lot of it's just gotta wait and see. Is what I'm getting at as far as Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of wait and see, and I'm very interested in Chris Paul for tournaments. And assuming this status quo stays, we're talking 30% plus owned Dwayne Washington and under 10% Damian Lee. Then yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot of Damian Lee, and I'm going to be playing no Dwayne Washington. If that shifts, or if Washington gets in the starting lineup, that's obviously when things change and where I'd want to be playing them.
Do want to shout out a couple winners in the Discord channel. I should have mentioned it again, but you guys, you should show up early. When you show up early, when Devin's producing especially, we give away stuff in the Discord channel. 2 winners. All you have to do is hit the enter button on the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, and the live stream chat channel. 1 week free of RG Premium. By the way, all the sports, just so you know, you get everything, not just basketball. You can have some fun with football as well, hockey, all that good stuff. King Spark 35 and Graybill 720. Devin should have alerted you. He'll hook you. He'll juice you guys up. So there you go. Congratulations, y'all. At the other side of this game, we mentioned Memphis in passing. You can always play John Morant. Nobody's really playing John Morant today. Just a heads up, like 3%. Obviously, Bane is back, and they're a fully healthy, fully operating machine. The Memphis Grizzlies right now. The only one that's not playing is Danny Green, and I don't know if he's going to play at all this season. It doesn't matter. That said, are you interested in tournaments as far as any Memphis guys? Anybody do anything if you're running 2 or 3 Phoenix players, which, again, it's possible that can pay off if this game's close. I don't know what to do with this game, but I'm probably not playing Memphis players. I might make one like what if, but as of right now, I'm just not playing Memphis. How about yourself?
Because of how gross the value is on the slate, I think you can take shots on DraftKings on like a Clark or an Aldama. If you're playing a ton of lineups, not in like 1 to 10, but if you're playing a ton of lineups, Jaren Jackson Jr. has got a ceiling in limited minutes. Like you said, you can always play Ja, but this is going to be mostly an X-out team for me. Let's rip it back to Atlanta because, like, what do you think? Do we got some value now that DeAndre Hunter is out?
I just saw that. Yeah.
Can we play AJ Griffin or Jalen Johnson, or does that just kind of solidify Okongwu and John Collins?
I think Jalen Johnson's like basically been out of the rotation. Yeah, like he played. Yeah, we haven't really seen much of him at all. I think it's going to jump Bogdanović to the starting lineup, and I think he grabs a few extra minutes. Obviously, a little less ideal playing alongside Young and Murray, but more. I'll take a few more minutes with a little less usage as opposed.
I think Griffin starts.
You think so?
I think it's going to be AJ Griffin.
Okay, so if he starts 4-3 on DK, 4-8 on FanDuel, interesting. Yeah.
I think he's super in play because I could absolutely see a scenario where as long as this game close, which obviously it's projecting to be, the closing lineup for Atlanta is Young, Murray, Griffin, Bogdanović, and Collins.
So no Okongwu closing.
Yeah. And I think that should be the case as long as Indiana doesn't close with Jalen Smith, which they haven't been lately. Because, like, you look at Indiana here, if they're starting Aaron Nesmith at the 4, then it makes sense that Bogdanović would be the 4, or AJ Griffin would be the 4 in that lineup. And so I think we see Griffin start, and I think we see him close over Okongwu.
Interesting. And obviously that would kill the Okongwu. Well, not kill it, but he might get there in 3 quarters because he's cheap enough.
Or Collins. If Okongwu's like significantly outplaying Collins, but like,
yeah. But if Collins is closing at the 5, if that's your thought process, then like he's pretty cheap too.
I like him a lot on DraftKings now. I like on Fanduel. I don't have any interest in playing him, but a $5,400 John Collins on DK, that's going to be one of my favorite plays now.
Yeah, it's good to mention. Like on Fanduel, he's 6'3", whatever. You can play that if you want. It's fine. But 5'4" on DK is one of the better values we have on the board, especially if he closes at the 5. I'm guaranteeing that, but that's a possibility, I suppose. All right, let's move on. We still have, I believe, 3 more games to get through. Crunch Time crew owner, I want to say Yell, and I think it's Keith. And Chief Interologist Kevin Roth will be hosting that bad boy, taking you guys straight up the lock. New York in Dallas, 218.5 is the total. Is this a first blood revenge game for Jalen Brunson? It might be. Oh, he's questionable. That's right. Is he going to be healthy for this game? Last game he left it. I think the game was kind of already decided, so he didn't come back. But he is officially questionable this evening. He's dealing with a hip. As far as Dallas, DFS is still out. Otherwise, yeah, Kemba is available to play. Revenge game for Kemba. All right, yeah, Dallas versus New York. What are we doing here?
Quick thing I want to mention, Rob Williams is going to be in for the Celtics today. If you're playing a ton of lineups, I think he can be included in your pool, as crazy as that sounds, because even though he's only going to play low 20 minutes, he still has the block upside on FanDuel, and he's cheap on DraftKings. So I actually think he's somewhat in play if you're playing a lot of lineups. But in terms of New York and Dallas, I mean, yeah, we don't really ever want to be playing people against Dallas, but a little Brunson revenge, I can get behind it. Julius Randle's been playing phenomenal. Those are the only 2 guys I would want to get to, but I don't think there's any problem with playing either of them.
Yeah, Dallas, it's, Christian Wood has been, he had a nice little run there. It's kind of bumped up now, probably not getting there at 7-7. Luka, it's generally Luka or bust on Dallas. This is how it goes. A lot of minutes for THJ these days, the absence of DFS, but it's basically Luka or nothing. And if you can make a lineup where you have Luka and you like the lineup, cool, go for it. I don't know if I'm getting there though, but would never discourage it, obviously. Anything else? Go ahead.
Like something quick on New York. I glossed over Mitch Robinson too quick. I think he's definitely in play for tournaments. And then if Brunson is out, I think Emmanuel Quickley is probably going to be my favorite play on the slate. But it would make Grimes and even McBride a little bit more in play as well. Then on the Dallas side, if you're playing a ton of lineups, then I think Dinwiddie is still in the pool just because he's got the upside. Knicks give up a lot of threes. I don't hate the idea of playing some Tim Hardaway Jr., but he has been priced up. Luka is definitely the most interesting play on the slate, the most appealing play on the slate. But I think Wood, Dinwiddie, and Hardaway all have ceilings.
Quickly, by the way, we do have an if then or a what if. If Brunson is out, Quickly, like you said, becomes a really, really solid value. We're projecting for around 30 DK or FanDuel points. 33 minutes, I assume we're going to have him draw on the start. He did draw the start last time Brunson was out, couple games back, I believe. He wasn't spectacular out the gate, but I believe he did salvage. He will become a pretty solid play projection-wise. 2 more games. They are late this evening. Very first one on the docket we're going to talk about is Charlotte. Charlotte's playing the back half of a back-to-back. 240 total. Unfortunately, they are 4-point dogs here versus the Warriors. The Warriors obviously are beat up. No Steph, no Wiggins. JaMychal Green unavailable, but Draymond should be good to go. Charlotte, they are a sieve for giving up fantasy points. The price is, of course, baked up on Jordan Poole, but I think there's, meat in that bone for sure. DiVincenzo's another guy that's kind of priced up, but, he's 6'5". Where is he 5'9"? Is that FanDuel? He's 6K on FanDuel. A little more playable over there, I believe, assuming he draws that start. But, FanDuel-wise, I'm sure you'll talk about it, but LaMelo, they did not touch his price overnight. 8-9 over there, or if they did, they didn't bump him enough. Seems too cheap. 9-6 on DK. He took a dip on DK. Where are you at as far as Charlotte, Golden State? Theoretically, a really, really good DFS environment.
LaMelo is the best play on the FanDuel slate, and he's a phenomenal tournament option on DK as well. Golden State has played much better defense at home this season, but it's still a super high total. And like you mentioned, LaMelo is just way too underpriced on FanDuel. Rozier shot terribly last game. That's not going to happen every game, but like this is still LaMelo's team. And so I love LaMelo today. I think Rozier is very interesting for tournaments on DraftKings where he's $7,100 and you get the 3-point shooting bonus. I think he's a very interesting tournament play there. But those two are going to be mostly the only two that I'm interested in today. PJ Washington on DraftKings as well, actually. On FanDuel, he's $6K. He's tougher to get to. But on DraftKings, I think he makes for a very good play for that price tag as well. And then on the Golden State side of things, Jordan Poole is going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate. Klay Thompson is a very interesting tournament play. Draymond is a very interesting tournament play, especially on DraftKings where he's 5,900, 6,800 on FanDuel. I don't think I'm going to be getting there. 20% ownership. That feels like a great tournament fade for me today. But Poole is one of my favorite plays on the slate. Thompson, I think, is a phenomenal low-owned tournament play. And then I actually don't think there's any problem with going to a player like Jordan Kuminga for some value today either on FanDuel.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to Kirkwood on the show yesterday. He was talking about PJ Washington because of the injury to Nick Richards. He's still out with his ankle. We saw PJ play a lot of minutes the first night. I just went ahead and pulled up the old court IQ. He played almost 33 minutes, but essentially the entire fourth was without Mason Plumlee. Mason when it stretched and a half, you want to get all technical. He closed at the 5 alongside Hayward, Ball, Rozier, and Oubre. They went super, super small there.
And he's going to again when Draymond closes at the 5. Yeah,
like he's going to be I think Washington's a really good play tonight with the absence of Richards. And, you know, he's on a slate that doesn't have a lot of great math plays per se. And he's like fine. He's 5'2" on DK and projects as like a 5X guy. But I like him a good bit. I think he's very, very usable. Power forward only, not a lot of flexibility, but, you know, we'll take it. I'm definitely going to make sure to have some of him. And your favorite play on Golden State is who? I know you mentioned a bunch of guys, but who's your favorites?
Jordan Poole.
All right. Just if you can answer this succinctly, if possible, because we say this all the time, we get new people in. But Kenneth wants to know, how do you distinguish between somebody is in play for tournaments rather than in cash? There's a lot of variables to that, but can you answer that quickly, possibly, or no?
Yeah, no problem. Let's get us 11 more likes. We got over 320 people watching. Let's get this up over 100 before the crunch time guys pop in here. We got you free content, sponsored by FanDuel. So slide your finger over, hit us the like button. In terms of cash versus tournaments, so your cash plays are just whoever is projected the best. You do not care about ownership. You are playing the optimal lineup, the most just highest projected plays, the people who are most likely to do well. For tournaments, it's more like poker than it is sports betting because you're playing against people. You're not playing against the house. And so those projections become a lot less important and you're just looking for weighing, does this player have a ceiling and what is his ownership? Those are really the two things I look at. If somebody has the potential to, even if it's not likely, if somebody's got the potential to 10x their price tag, they're always in my pool for tournaments. We talked about like the most extreme version of that we talked about today is like Darius Baisley. If he plays 20 minutes would be a phenomenal value. He's probably not. So I would play him in one of like 150 lineups because if he did, he could be a tournament winner, but I would never play him in cash games due to his volatility. So while back in the day, before everybody had optimizers and projections, cash game plays versus tournaments were safe versus risky. That's not the case anymore. You can play risky cash game plays if they're picking up tons of ownership because you kind of want to play the higher owned guy in cash. But in tournaments, you want to get off that ownership and you're only looking for ceilings.
All right, dual prong hammer as far as the late night hammer. Charlotte and Golden State's one. The other one is Denver and Sacramento. Unfortunately, there's a lot of uncertainty right now with Sacramento and Denver. 239 is the total. Denver front half of a back-to-back, 239 point number. They're about a 4-point favorite. Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis, is currently questionable with his stub. I believe it's broken on his non-shooting hand. Beats suggest that he is not going to be playing, or at least he wasn't at practice today. Some speculation. Our projection team is leaning in. guessing he's not going to play. Again, not officially questionable. Aaron Gordon on the other side is questionable for Denver. Otherwise, they are good to go. And then, hey, that Nikola Jokic guy is really, really good at basketball. We touched on Sacramento. If Sabonis is out, it can be a smorgasbord of big boys. Alex Len possibly draws the start. We can see Metu draw the start. We've seen Richaun Holmes be good in the past. We have not seen him be good lately in a while, but theoretically, maybe he can summon what he was a few years back for. Well, he was not terrible in Sacramento not that long ago. He was pretty fun in Philadelphia too. He had some moments. But Denver and Sacramento, where are you at? What say you as far as this game? I know part of it is just sort of a waiting game because the information is not fully with us.
Best tournament spot to find value on the slate. Now, the reason I say that is because if I'm running one lineup today like I am, one of my favorite low-owned values to get to is going to be Saskatoon, Saskatchewan's own Trey Lyles. We're projecting him for 20 minutes, but if he picks up more minutes like I think he will today, I think he's going to be one of the best cheap value plays on the slate. If I'm running 150 lineups, I'm including all of these centers in my pool. Richaun Holmes, Alex Len, Nemias Queta, and the reason for it is I think Denver smashes them today. I think Denver just absolutely smashes them. Nikola Jokic is probably going to have a 30-point triple-double in 3 quarters today. And so if not, hey, maybe Len plays some minutes. But if so, it'll be Queta or Holmes or Lyles in there. I think Malik Monk makes for a very interesting tournament play because if this one is close or not, he should be getting in there. And he's the type of guy that these benches get unloaded and at the start of the fourth quarter, and he'll just be shooting absolutely every shot for that second unit. So I like him a lot. And if you do think this one is a blowout today and you're playing a lot of lineups on DraftKings, I don't this is in the same range as the Darius Baisley call, and I actually like this one more than Darius Baisley, but it's Terrence Davis. If this is ugly and this turns to a blowout and Terrence Davis plays 20 minutes, we could have 30 fantasy points in 20 minutes. We've seen him do that multiple times this year. Just 2 weeks ago against Toronto, he played 24 minutes. He had 28 and a half fantasy points.
There was guys that Fox didn't play that game, right? Or no, Herter didn't play that game. Herter was out.
Correct. But now this one, we're not going to have Sabonis, which obviously they're not playing the same position, but he's their best player. And so no Sabonis, this game should not be that close. I mean, I see we're projecting it to be that close, but
it's a 4-point line. I think it's worth pointing out.
Denver plus 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so that's what I'm saying though, is whether it is or not, there's value. And so if it's close, I think Trey Lyles and Keegan Murray are going to be on the court, and even Malik Monk are going to be on the court making for good value plays. But then if this turns to a blowout, I think somebody like Terrence Davis could be a slate-breaking value play.
For the record, it looks like we're projecting and we're covering ourselves here. We're giving 4 minutes to Davis, 3 minutes to 2 to KZ Ekpala, 2 to Metu. We're projecting 13 guys for Sacramento. So they have a ton of dudes where it's possible.
They have a ton of dudes, but they also got a ton of dudes who are really cheap and they're not going to have their head coach. And we have no idea what this rotation is going to be. So for me, it's more about not a knock on our projections team because they're phenomenal. And I just don't think anybody, literally anyone outside of maybe the guy who's subbing in as the Kings head coach today has a firm idea of what their rotation is going to be.
Mitchell Mayo pointing out, I forgot about this one. Sneaky revenge for Trey Lyles. Totally forgot he was on Denver. That's right. Does that boost your excitement to play 20 minutes of Trey Lyles?
I think he's played on 8 different teams.
This vengeful guy. Every night he's really, really angry before he takes the court. Ownership-wise, the only thing that's really popping here, and kind of on Sacramento, 14% for Fox, which is a little surprising to me. You're getting a little bit of the elite point guards, but I don't.
And 26% owned on DraftKings, on FanDuel. I love that fade today. I would just way rather get to some of the other guys we talked about, in that same price range at point guard today. I would way rather play Chris Paul, Jordan Poole, DeJounte Murray.
Assuming the crunch time period is coming here in a second. Javon's got a question. Brown versus Pascal. It's Pascal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Similar price points. Hey, I see STL Cards. I see TJ. I see Roth. Are we excited about the Alex Len game? Who's excited about the Sacramento Kings, big man? Keith, we playing some Alex Len? No.
That's a really volatile situation. I'd probably try to avoid that. But you say that, none of the chalk or the cheap guys on this slate are interesting or like grading out as great plays. So as of right now, it's all really uncomfortable.
Everyone talks about how the slate sizes are so great this week. Well, how about we spread out the value across these slates too? Because on Christmas, there was no value. And then last night, we had like 50 guys to choose from. And then 2 situations got hairy right up until lock. And now tonight, we've got nothing again. So, yeah, it's interesting out there. There's going to be some landmines tonight for sure. I think this could be a sneaky lower scoring night because I think a lot of these plays are just, you're hoping for 20 out of some of these value guys, and it's going to be dicey.
Our best point per dollar plays on DK, to your point, and we'll step aside and make way for
was Dwayne Washington a few minutes ago. Is it still him?
Hit the refresh. Yeah, we're projecting 16 minutes for him. That's how thin everything is, and we're projecting just short of 18 fantasy points. He's 3K still minimum. Alex Len, we're projecting Sabonis out. That's obviously under the assumption. And there's tons of fragility to that, and a Kungwu between those, and then Sohan and Poku and Dort. And stop me when you love these guys in high ownership. Yeah, well, you guys have fun with it. Roth, what's going on, dude? How are things in your world? We good?
Things are good. Yeah, this slate sounds terrible, and I'm glad I'm not playing it.
You should play it. I mean, you like your stars and scrubs nonsense. This is probably not the best stars and scrubs slate. Yeah.
All right, fine. Twist my arm. I'm in. I'll play it.
Well, TJ and cards will help you out for sure.
Keith,
TJ's leading. Yeah, TJ, unless you want to stick around.
You've been with me the whole time, man. We just spent an hour and a half together.
You've had your quota of me. You're done with me for at least a couple weeks, I'm sure. You got anything else before we step aside and get out of here and let the boys take over?
Make sure you keep hitting that like button. Almost 400 people watching for us now. We did our job on GrindersLive here because I was here and Dean didn't have to do the job like he's supposed to be doing it. Always.
I delegated it. Very smart call.
Whatever. It is what it is. I mean, if you're playing tournaments today and Onyeka Okongwu is really going to be 40+ owned on Fanduel and Dwayne Washington's really going to be 40+% owned on DK,
no,
maybe just get off of those guys. That's it.
All right. We're stepping aside, making a way for the Fanduel sponsor crunch time. You got Kevin Roth. You got Keith Eyster, Eyes, and SDL Cards, the greatest DFS player with a V in his name. Take it over, Roth. It's all yours.
Are there any others? I don't know. Welcome to
the dude that was just here.
Say what?
The dude that was just, it was a shot. It was a callback to our TJ's Warren. Continue.
Does he have a V in his name?
Z.
I think you said V, didn't you?
Well, then I blew it. All right.
You did.
Yeah.
Damn it, Dean.
And then he leaves like a spurned lover.
Guys, as Dean says, ended on a high note, and he fulfilled his mission there. Welcome to it, guys. This is indeed crunch time, and I'm just thrilled to be joined by some of the sharpest minds in the biz. The smartest guy in the industry with a V or a Z in his name. It is Justin Van Zuiden, a.k.a. STL Cards. What up, Cards?
Oh, not too much. This is a tricky slate tonight, and, I looked back on last night because as we exited last night, right, we talked the whole show about how those 3K punt plays for Miami and New Orleans were going to be the obvious plays for cash games, and then everyone started freaking out right before lock because one of them wasn't starting, and then Larry Nance was available for New Orleans. Well, guess what? The guys that we were on the whole night before that scare took place, they both ended up going for 30+ at 3K, and so if you stuck with both of them, that was the right call last night. Unfortunately, it's not going to be any easier making some of those decisions tonight. But if you stuck with the original build last night and you played the don't tinker with the news, that was your winner last night. So we'll see what tonight brings.
Okay, so lesson learned. Like as soon as we hit lock or a few minutes before it, just close out, just X out. Don't listen to anything that happens after that.
Then somebody gets ruled out. That'll happen tonight.
Right. Also, we got my guy Keith Eyster, a.k.a. the Iceman here, coming in with some GPP takes. Ice, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. Still trying to break this one down or figure out where we're going here tonight. It's a very difficult one. We would definitely kill for somebody like Orlando Robinson or Najee Marshall playing 30 minutes in this on the slate. Like, it's just a bunch of uncomfortable stuff, but we'll break it down, do the best we can.
Can we not just play a bunch of like 5 and 6K dudes that are good? Is that not an option?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best route for tournaments. You're definitely going to be fading some of the guys that we're talking about for cash games, I think, for sure.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Well, let's dive into it. By the way, if you haven't signed up for the FanDuel Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? Now's the time to take advantage of their fantastic bonus offer. New customers get the no-sweat first bet up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure you're signing up for scores and odds as well. It is all your RotoGrinders pros that you know, you trust, you love, helping you out with some sports betting as well. Some very sharp minds behind that. Cards, let's talk about this slate and discuss what the plan is. Maybe a little cash overview on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've kind of hit on it here at the start. It's a tricky slate, even though we've got 9 games. It's not one where we have a ton of obvious value. I mean, we do have a lot of guys out, but like Davis has been out for a little while now, and Curry's been out for a little while now, and Booker has played like 5 minutes in the last 2 weeks. Campaign has been out for a little bit. So all the guys that are kind of relevant with these bigger name guys being injured, they've sort of been priced in over the last couple of weeks. It's going to take some new injury news to kind of open up a lot more value, and we really haven't had a whole lot of that. Sabonis is the big one, technically still questionable. We are leaning doubtful side of questionable, which I think I would agree with. I think it's kind of silly for them to push it. But the problem is that's the last game of the night, and it starts an hour and a half after all the others. If you're banking on Sabonis being out and then he plays, what do? You really don't have that many other options at that point. So it makes it really tricky. This is a very tough slate for cash games. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to have all the answers because we don't know about that Sabonis news. And so I think you do probably take it a little bit more balanced even in cash games at this point. And you're probably still going to have one guy or 2 guys in your lineup that you don't feel great about. But so is everybody else. So it's kind of a tricky navigation night. But we'll do what we can.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's start building things out over on FanDuel.
Yeah, so point guard, I mean, if you look, you've got 3 guys above 10K. You've got Trae Young at 9.9K, even Halliburton at 9.8K. I don't think you're getting there in cash games tonight. Unless you feel super comfortable with these 4K guys, which I don't, you're probably not getting 9K plus, really, for anybody in your cash game build tonight. And you can see if I sort on FanDuel by ownership, the 3 highest owned guys are in the 8Ks. They're a little bit more accessible in Ball, De'Aaron Fox, and Chris Paul. And I probably rank him in that order. I don't feel quite as good about Chris Paul. I mean, the Phoenix got blown out by Memphis last week with Booker out. He worries me a little bit. I think I'd go with Fox and LaMelo first. LaMelo would be the priority for me. They're in Golden State. That game has a 240 total. It just... Since he's been back, he's been cheaper on FanDuel than on DraftKings. He's 10K plus on DraftKings. He's gone for 45 plus each of the last 5 games. The minutes are there. He took 26 shots 2 of the last 3. So I think LaMelo Ball you're prioritizing at point guard. From there, I mean, if you can get Ball and Fox together, that leaves you with 6,000 per player, which you're starting to get. I mean, you start with 67, 66, 67 per player. So you're starting to eat into that salary average already if you go with those 2 8K guys. So maybe you go with a Fultz or a Melton. But again, you don't feel super great about those guys either. So I'd say Ball and Fox if you can. Ball and a cheaper guy if you can't get both. You can see Noto's given LaMelo Ball the core tag. So I agree with that on FanDuel. So he's the priority for me at point guard. Shooting guard, Atlanta's down a couple guys tonight. Capella is out. Hunter got ruled out right before we came on the air. So you're going to see our projections for Atlanta are going to look a little better now. They've got a good matchup against Indiana in what should be a pace-up game. Really high total there as well. So Bogdanović has gained some steam now that he's playing a few extra minutes. I can see him pushing for 35 plus tonight. Not the highest ceiling guy and maybe a good fade for tournaments, but cash games, I think he's fine at 6.1K. He's probably your first shooting guard lock in there. And then you've got, Jaylen Brown, DiVincenzo, the OKC wings are okay. Like, nobody grades out as an exceptional play. I mentioned Jordan Poole. Maybe I didn't mention him at point guard, but he's fine at shooting guard if you need him. But Bogdanovich is probably the one guy here that I would lock in at 6.1K. Small forward, a lot of your options are the same, but we do start to get a little bit more value here. Kuminga at 4,200. If you trust the minutes with the way the Warriors are missing some guys, he only played 16 the other night though. I don't feel great about him in cash.
I feel like, and I'm going to jinx it, but I feel like even when he gets the minutes, he kind of disappoints. Like, he's not exactly a per-minute monster when he gets the time.
Exactly. And Curry's been out. Wiggins has been out. Thompson's missed a few games. It's not like the matchup is good tonight, but we're going to say this about all the punt guys, but that's why I think you live in the 6Ks, like Sohan at 5,100, DiVincenzo. If there was a Golden State wing that I play tonight, it's probably DiVincenzo, who has been good. You can see he's had like 4 games in the 30s with the injuries that they've had, so I think he's fine. Banchero at 7,900. He's been playing well again. They get the Lakers tonight. I don't have a strong take on whether you need to prioritize anybody here. Noto gave Banchero the core tag, which, again, I'm okay with that if you can fit him in, but I don't think he'd be an absolute must roster. I don't think you have one there. At small forward. Power forward, part of it's going to hinge on what you want to do with the Sabonis news. Everyone is going to want to play Alex Len if Sabonis is out. I think our projection right now is a bit of a hedge. I think if Sabonis is really out, we'd probably project him for a few more minutes. If Sabonis is in, this could turn into total disaster. But he's 3,500, and he's really the only play on DraftKings that you can feel comfortable about in that, say, below 5K range. Okongwu is your center play tonight. That's the lock on Fanduel at 5,800. He's been playing well. Great matchup. Capella's out tonight. Okongwu should be the first guy in your Fanduel lineup. It's just, even though he's center only, the slate is so difficult to find value. He should get 30-plus minutes tonight, and he's only 5,800. So he's probably the other Atlanta guy I lock in there. You're going to need to take another value or two. Maybe it's Looney, maybe it's Sohan, who isn't, it's not a sexy play, but he's relatively safe. And so you can see we've got half a lineup filled out here, and we still have 6,800 per player. And that's probably where I would stop with elite targets. But go to show you, if you want to say you want to fit Luka in this lineup, and then I want to put Tatum in there. If I want to put 2 studs, I'm down to 3,700 and I still got 3 spots to fill, and it's just not happening. So that's why those 10K and up guys, I just don't think you're getting there in cash games tonight. I think you're living in that 7 and 8K range. If you want to play Alex Len, if you feel good about Sabonis being out, that does open up a lot more for you. And if we knew Sabonis was out, I would put him in there, but we don't know that, and it's the last game of the night. So it's a little bit risky to just say set it and forget it with Alex Len in there. It's a tough slate tonight. It really is. It's really interesting to see how this plays out.
Is there some sort of 2v2 pivot you can do with Len? Is he worth that sacrifice or that level of overthinking or planning if Sabonis is out, where you can set up a 2v2, and if he's in, or if Sabonis is in, you're like, okay, this lineup is still okay?
Yes. So the Golden State game starts at the same time. At that point, the problem with Kuminga, who we don't love, he's only small forward eligible, and Len is power forward center. So you'd almost need to play somebody you need to play one expensive guy. So you'd have to play Kelly Oubre or Klay Thompson with Len. And then if Len is out, you go down from Klay Thompson to Keegan Murray, or maybe you get Harrison Barnes in there. But these aren't guys that grade out fantastic. Yeah. It's just, if Len is, or if Sabonis is in, you almost just want to let the situation go.
But you can't.
So so you're basically with 2v2 would be right now you're plugging in like Klay Thompson and Alex Len, and then you can swap it to like Harrison Barnes and DiVincenzo or something like that. Roughly in my head, that kind of works with math, but yeah, it's not great, and that's just a common theme tonight.
Okay, that works. Ice, let's talk some GPP builds here. I have no idea what the chalk is other than LaMelo Ball, and that sounds like the only play I like. So I don't know what the hell we're supposed to do in tournaments.
Yeah, excuse me. LaMelo is in a fantastic spot. He's certainly a guy you want a lot of exposure to. Okongwu is the other guy that's grading out as very chalky right now. And I think you can certainly fade him. There are a lot of plays, especially on FanDuel, where you can only play one center, even in the same range as Okongwu, who have similar upside. You have guys like Thomas Bryant, Alperen Şengün, Jakob Poeltl. Like those, all of those guys could outscore Okongwu pretty easily. So I certainly would be underweight on Okongwu and go overweight on some of those other guys in the same range. A pretty clear 1v1 pivot there. Mm-hmm. The Alex Len situation is a little bit more difficult because he has that power forward eligibility and he's so cheap. It's hard. Like you can't find somebody that grades out that well at this point. But it is an extremely risky situation, and Alex Len could start and play like 16 minutes. So even if Sabonis gets ruled out and Len is named the starter, that does not mean he's playing 25 minutes tonight. He could certainly play 16 to 18 minutes and not pay off his price tag. So I would lean into that pretty heavily in tournaments and just look for pivots on Sacramento. If you can get up to Keegan Murray, I could see him playing a little bit more tonight. He's significantly more expensive though. Malik Monk is a guy who could get a little bit of extra run. He's 4,900. As far as straight 1-for-1 pivots, different position, but Terrence Davis is interesting. And then somebody like Trey Lyles is interesting, who is almost the exact same price. He's 100 more. And he could absolutely play some 5 tonight. So Trey Lyles is very interesting as a straight pivot off of Lyles. But I think you're looking within the same rotation for your pivot off of Lyles and just hoping that he doesn't get the full run. Okay. A couple other areas we're still monitoring news on that could open up some value. Jalen Brunson still questionable for the Knicks. If he gets ruled out, Emmanuel Quickley comes one of the best plays on the slate. If we don't get that news in the next 15 minutes, I would still be building my lineups with some Quickley in there, just because he probably jumps into the starting lineup. We've seen that the last time Brunson was out. Quentin Grimes becomes more interesting, so definitely keep an eye on the Brunson situation. And then Keldon Johnson is another one. Cards mentioned Sohan already, who's borderline playable with Keldon in. If Keldon is out, we've seen Sohan pick up a bunch of usage in the past week or so when Keldon has missed time. So he becomes a fantastic value. He's going to catch ownership, but I think he comes in a little bit under-owned if we don't have that Keldon news yet.
Okay, so you're still waiting for a lot of what seems like not really important news, but in the scale of this slate, which sucks, it is really important news.
Yes, it is really important. And then I'd look to the Spurs also for even some further down the board stuff like Stanley Johnson, Josh Richardson. Like those guys become interesting on this slate. As bad as it is to say, it's not like we're talking about elite plays here that are grading out the best plays in this range, and they're catching like 30-40% ownership. If you can outscore those guys by 2 points, you're way ahead of half the field almost.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. All right, let's talk some DK here. I'm already seeing questions about if Braun is okay in cash. Like I just assumed in my head the answer was no, but Cards, I'm going to let you kind of walk through what we're doing over here on DK Cash.
Yeah, so if you thought the FanDuel build was a little bit wonky, the DraftKings build is a little more wonky, I guess I would say. It just again, it's a matter of how you feel about these punt plays, and I don't love it. So what I'm gonna do, if I can get my thing to update, is I sort by projected ownership, which right now. Again, it's how you feel about these uncomfortable values. So Sohan is more palatable on DraftKings because he's only 4,100. But we've got Poku picking up ownership. And, I mean, this is a guy that they will just randomly play him like 10 minutes sometimes. It's like, do I feel comfortable playing him at 32% ownership in cash? I don't think I do, but it's if you're just playing for the block because everybody else is going to play him, I guess. But he's projected for 25 fantasy points, and the floor I think is, it's 10 if they decide it's one of these nights where they don't want to play him a bunch of minutes. So, if I go with the same guys, and I'll go back and go through the positions here in a second, but if we go Sohan, Okongwu, and find another kind of mid-range play that you like, I'll just throw Dort in there for now, who again I think is fine, but nothing special. We're at 7,100 per player, and if you're wanting to play LeBron, all right, so let's find LeBron is 10-6. And, you go with one other spendy guy like LaMelo, who's less appealing on DraftKings. But again, you're down to 5,100. So what this comes down to, again, is whether or not you want to play Alex Len. Because on DraftKings, he's 3K. So do you want to play him? I mean, if you're playing Okongwu and Len, then there's two centers. So you've got your center and your utility spot. The thing that's better about Len on DraftKings is, since you have a utility spot, I think if you're playing Alex Len on DraftKings, you absolutely have to put him there because he's starting at 10 o'clock, and you can find other centers to play like Jokic and Okongwu. Those guys are fine too. So if you can get to Jokic, so if you're playing Len on DraftKings, you absolutely play him in your utility spot, and then you can play another guy from that game in, say, your guard or forward spot, or the Golden State game that starts at the same time. And that makes your lineup a lot more flexible than on FanDuel, where you're locked into those positions a little bit more. So I don't mind the idea of hedging your bets a little bit and playing the waiting game on DraftKings, where you can make that roster a little bit more flexible. You can see if I put Len in there, then that works salary-wise. So it comes down again to how you feel about Alex Len. I'm more comfortable playing him on DraftKings because A, he's 3,000 and that opens up a little bit more, and B, you've got that utility spot to help you navigate the news cycle a little bit better. So if we go through the positions, and I'll do it quickly because I know we're running behind, but LaMelo Ball, more expensive on DraftKings. I don't think you have to play him there. I think I'd go with Fox for 1,200 cheaper, or Halliburton, who I like on DraftKings at 9K against Atlanta. Shooting guard, I'm fine with Bogdanović again at 6,100. He's probably your priority there. You've got all the mid-range guys like Thompson and Poole, that can fit that hedge lineup as well with the 10 o'clock starts that are fine. Small forward, you probably will end up on Dort on a lot of DK lineups because of that salary. Bogdanović, if you're not playing him at shooting guard. Terry Rozier, I think, is okay if you want to play him in that late night game as well. Again, that just goes to fit that build on DraftKings a little bit better. If you're looking to go with that Len 2v2 or even leave 3 or 4 spots open, I think is fine. Sohan, yes, in cash games at power forward. Poku, probably not for me, though I understand why some might do it. I think Draymond is okay, but Sohan is probably the lock at 4,100. And then, again, center, probably some combination of Okongwu, Len. If you need a mid-range guy, I think Jakob Poeltl is fine. If you can get up to Jokic, great. I would probably get to Jokic ahead of LeBron. Like, if I had to pick one spend on DraftKings, I do like Jokic. It's just that the center position, you can only play 2 of them. So it's still tricky, but maybe a little bit more navigable with the Len situation on DraftKings.
Okay, very good. That makes a lot of sense. Ice, you want to walk me through your thoughts over on DKGPPs?
Yeah, very similar to FanDuel in that Len and Okongwu, I think, are the chalk that's very fadeable. A couple of game environments I really like that I'm targeting, the San Antonio Oklahoma City game and the Charlotte Golden State game are both amazing. So I'll load up on those. They are also both towards the back half of the slate where we should have a little bit more news. So I'm jamming in guys like Jordan Poole, De'Aaron Fox, Lou Dort. SGA is one of my absolute favorite plays on the slate. But just go heavy on those games until we have a little bit more news, and then you can rework your lineups a little bit.
And
Brunson. Yep. Go ahead.
Let me stop you real quick, and we'll pick back up with what you're going to say about Brunson. But you talked about this Oklahoma City game, but you didn't mention the two chalkiest guys, which is what Poku and Sohan. Are you playing those guys, or are you off that kind of weird chalk?
I think on this slate you have to play a little bit of it, just because some of these options are so disgusting. But absolutely take some pivots also, like even within the same team, the same rotation. Like Poku, go down to Darius Bazley. There's a decent chance that Bazley could go back into the rotation, and Poku gets those 12 minutes that Cards is talking about, and Bazley plays ahead of him. Like, these situations are so volatile, you can absolutely attack that in GPPs. San Antonio, Sohan is going to start and play the minutes more than likely. But if you get Keldon out, then there are other values that open up. But I would go Sohan for San Antonio unless Keldon is out. Then I think you can get real crazy on San Antonio.
Okay.
Just with the Brunson, Brunson, the same thing. Like, I'm very interested in that news. I know it's a difficult matchup against Dallas, but quickly becomes an awesome play. Julius Randle has absolutely smashed without Brunson this year. So it's not the greatest matchup, and it's very difficult to run it back with Luka. But I'm very interested in some of those plays if Brunson does get rolled out, and kind of the same thing with Keldon as well. Just a couple low-owned guys just to get their names out there. Pascal Siakam, another guy that I love. Paolo Banchero is somebody nobody's playing on DK, first game of the night, but has an absolute chance to smash. Love running that back with Thomas Bryant.
Okay, very good. Anything else either of y'all want to add? We've got 6 or so minutes here before lock.
I think I'm good.
No, I don't want to speak any more words than about the slate other than answering the questions that the people have.
That's fair. All right, let's get to the questions. We'll start with my guy, Bad Booby. He says, Dwayne Washington and play tonight on FanDuel. Is that a GPP question?
So he was grading out pretty well earlier. We've come down on him a little bit, and it was really DraftKings only. I'm checking. Yeah, he's 3,500. So he'd be a straight line pivot, different position, but a salary pivot from Alex Len. Booker is out. There's a chance he could get a little additional run, but it is just as risky as Alex Len.
Okay. All right. Very good. NBA DFS says, Cards, what happens if Trey Lyles is starting instead of Len?
Good question.
We learned this lesson last night. You play the guy that you want to play all along, and don't worry about who's starting, because Robinson ended up being the guy, even though he didn't start last night. I think it's a more fair question here, though, simply because we truly don't know what they're going to do, and it's also, the revenge narrative, I guess, if you want to play that. If Lyles starts over Len, I probably would give Lyles the bump in cash games.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, because Alex Len is not a normal rotation player, like, there's a legitimate chance, even if Sabonis is out, Len could just not play.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Some guys are just like who they are, even if other people are out. They're still like locked in their role, minor as it may be. All right. Let's see. Carolina guy says FanDuel GPP Ice. Is Cole Anthony, he says valuable. I don't know if he means viable. Is he either of those things?
I would say he's both of those things. Yes. He's right in that 5K range where we have a ton of plays. That's kind of where you're living because the value is so bad. He just went off last night. He's got a good matchup against the Lakers, or their last game. I'm not sure if it was last night. But yeah, he's in play.
Very good. Okay. Aside FanDuel cash cards, you want the Fox and Collins or Cliff Paul and PJ Washington?
Let me see where we've got Collins at. Yeah, I'm okay with the first one. I like that a little bit better.
Very good. Okay. Hijack G says, Ice, what are your thoughts on Ayton on DK with a fantasy point per minute bump with some guys out?
He's fine. Center is always loaded, though. Price has come up a little bit on him. Yeah, I mean, still fine. Ownership is probably a little bit lower than it should be.
Okay, great. All right. Nbad says, hey, I really like my cash lineup on FanDuel, but I've got Washington and Len in. Am I too thin there, Cards?
Washington being Dwayne Washington or PJ Washington?
Dwayne. Yeah. Dwayne.
Yeah, I don't think I'd play Washington on FanDuel. But again, everyone's going to have a guy they're uncomfortable with. don't blow it up. Like if you like the rest of it, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world tonight.
Okay, and that answers another question, which was, is Dwayne Washington a viable punt in cash? And your answer is like,
On another night, this would be a firm no. Like we're talking about a guy that has not played more than 20 minutes in a game all season, becoming all of a sudden like a play. We don't have an answer here, but Booker is out and Shamet is out and Payne is out. Like they got 3 guys out, so he has to get 15 to 18 minutes. It's not the end of the world tonight on a slate like this.
okay, right. I mean, and if he gets 16 to 20 points, you're okay with
That's
it?
fine tonight.
Oh, you'd be thrilled with
games.
20. Yeah.
Yes.
That's just absurd. That is absurd that you're thrilled with 20. But, all right, let's see. Over under 1 basket made for Scary Terry. Did something happen with him? Did he?
He's
was
questionable,
I
I
think
believe.
What's that?
He's questionable, isn't he? Or
Oh,
maybe
all right. So maybe that's the question: is he in or not?
because he shot 2 of 17.
I was gonna say I think he missed a ton of shots last night.
We'll
They
take
might
the
have a
over,
back-to-back,
but barely.
though.
And no, he's not questionable. It's Dennis Smith Jr. that's questionable. That's what I was
Gotcha.
thinking of.
All right. FanDuel Casher, just a couple minutes until lock. There's a 3v3 for your cards, and this seems impossible. But Harden, Sohan, DiVincenzo, or Boncaro, DeJounte, and Damian Lee.
First one.
Okay, very good. On FanDuel, was prioritizing Harden. What's the better position slot to put him in to be flexible on news? Point guard or shooting guard?
It's probably point guard because, let's see. No, it's probably shooting guard because point guard you'd have more flexibility with the later games because you got LaMelo there, potentially Poole there. I mean, a lot of guys are point guard and shooting guard, but I'd probably put him at shooting guard.
Okay, very good. Raj says, do you like Gafford or Len better? He didn't specify which side.
Go ahead, Keith.
I mean, it's hard to answer without definitive Sabonis news. I'm not playing Gafford tonight.
That's fair. Okay. DK Cash, cards Collins or Draymond?
Yeah, I think I like Draymond a little bit better.
Okay. FanDuel single entry, Dort or Barnes?
Dort.
DK Cash, this is a 3v3. Damian Lee, Draymond, and Joker, or Halliburton, Clay, and Pirtle the Turtle?
First one.
All right. Jay Sam says, hey, by the way, we're coming up on lock here. If Sabonis doesn't miss, aren't guys like Herter and Harrison Barnes sneaky for GPPs? I see Barnes get rebound bumps and assist bumps for Herter. Would you be okay playing them together? So this is a multi-part question. I'm giving it to you.
So I wouldn't say that they're better. I would agree that they're sneaky just because people are targeting Sacramento right now with Sabonis being projected out. Sabonis in, people are going to try to get away from Sacramento. So that would drop Barnes and Herter's ownership even more. And I'm totally fine with both of those. They're that 5K range where there's a lot of talk tonight is where they both are. So totally fine with those pivots.
Okay. I read that wrong. It was if he does miss. So I totally blew the entire question. So
Good job, Roth.
Still viable. Yep. That's
okay. Yeah. I pulled the Dean and ended the show on my lowest note. It's just excellent.
We've hit lock already. I'll expand. We already have Sabonis projected out, just so everyone is clear on that. The projections will not change for Sacramento if Sabonis gets ruled out. There is a what if projection for if Sabonis is back in. So if you want to see, and you're a premium member, if you want to see how Sacramento grades out with Sabonis back in, we do have projections for that.
Okay. Chinatown says, hey, I was late. Why are so many non-S? By the way, I'm skipping down to the bottom just because I feel like a lot of these questions maybe Locke has erased them. I don't know. Why are so many non-SGA guys popping for OKC when SGA is in?
Because they're everyone else is cheap. That's right. Everyone else, because the rest of the team stinks and they're all cheap. 4,300, 4,900, 4,500, 4K. That's why.
Yeah. All right. Brunson game time decision. I think what we were kind of expecting that perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Rodney Brown says Okongwu and Turner same lineup. He didn't say if it's a question or a comment or but Ice, I'm just going to say what he says. Okongwu and Turner, same lineup.
Yeah, so that's the big negative correlation question, and I do buy into that a little bit. Like they're competing for the same rebounds. There's still block upside for both of them. But yeah, bigs in the same game stack is not something that I love.
Okay, very good. DKGPP. I don't even know if this is a real question. Malachi Flynn or Malachi Brenham? Do we have multiple Malachis? I don't know.
Yeah, technically, I don't know that either of them are in play, really.
Okay, all right. Fair enough.
Brandon, I suppose, is interesting if Keldon misses.
Oh, okay. With the downgrade to Aaron Gordon on FanDuel, is Murray a nice GPP play?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay. All right. Hey, guess what? We caught up on all the questions except what's your favorite color? Both of you get to answer that quickly before we bounce. Cards, favorite color. If you take too long to answer this, I'm going to be mad.
It's got to be red for a Cardinals fan.
Oh, very good. Good answer. Ice?
Blue for Cubs.
We've settled all the debates here.
Well done. All right. We're going to end it right there. We have one more question. Sorry. It was center versus Charlotte. Is that the play? Center versus Charlotte tonight. And will Wiseman get more than 15 minutes?
It's never.
That's
Golden
absolutely
State
a thing. Centers have smashed against Charlotte, but I mean, you're talking about Kevin Looney and James Wiseman. Nobody knows how many minutes Wiseman has played. He did get as many as 27 recently. I don't hate it. Like, that might be your Alex Len pivot right there for tournaments.
Okay, very good. We have finally closed it out on a high note. So shout out to our sponsor, FanDuel. Make sure you caress that little thumbs up button for us for this free content. The more thumbs up we get, the more FanDuel wants to keep this show free. So make sure you're hitting that like button so we can keep it free for you. For cards, for ice, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes. As we appreciate you, we love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.